Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. You know, I had a taste for Yorkshire pudding, so I made some Yorkshire pudding. And I filmed it for you. Let me give you a heads up. I made a rookie mistake when I was making this Yorkshire pudding. It's been years since I've made it. Here are the ingredients. You can pause and write this down. And I started to take the rookie mistake out. But I thought, no, let's leave it, because everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes they're just not fatal to your dish. They're very easily fixed. So let's get cooking. So Yorkshire puddings are very, very versatile. I've got in here 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and I bet you can see my rookie mistake right now. I didn't sift it. And you know, you should always sift flour before you start working with it, and I knew that, but hey. Here's 1 cup of milk, and I have here a cup of eggs. Yes, I know you don't usually measure eggs in a cup, but your basic Yorkshire pudding recipe is a cup of flour, cup of eggs, cup of milk, and just a pinch of salt. You can make any amount you want. What we're making today would make about 12 muffin size puddings, or 1 9x9 or a 10-inch skillet Yorkshire pudding, and you can make it either way. So I'm stirring in the salt. Now let me tell you why it was, and I'm going to beat in the eggs, and let me tell you why it was a rookie mistake not to sift the flour. This 1 cup recipe will turn out perfectly if all your flour is blended in. But because I didn't sift it properly, I had lumps, which meant that my batter turned out thinner because there was less flour to incorporate into the milk and eggs. But that's one of those things that can be easily fixed, and I'll show you how I fixed it. I've added the milk in, and I'm just going to stir. And to test this, you want it to coat the back of a spoon. And it is coating the back of the spoon, but it's too thin. It's not coating it enough. It just runs right off. So I'm going to sprinkle in about, well, this would be a total of about 4 tablespoons of more flour and mix it in as much as I can. And then I'm going to drain it through a sieve. Now, even if you don't make the rookie mistake, you should always drain this through a sieve anyway, because you want a very smooth and silky batter to make your Yorkshire puddings. So there we go, mistake fixed. We will now proceed. Now this is going to be refrigerated, covered and refrigerated for 30 minutes to 24 hours. You can make your Yorkshire pudding in just about any pan that will stand up to high heat for a good long time. I'm using cast iron. I have a drop biscuit pan and a muffin pan. You can cook them in a cast iron skillet. You can cook them in a casserole dish. You can cook them in a roasting pan. This recipe will do about 12 muffins. I have here lard. Traditionally, you would use meat drippings, but lard is meat drippings. If you're making roasted meat, either beef, chicken, pork, whatever, you would take the drippings directly from that. Now I'm going to put, about a half a teaspoonful of lard or drippings, whatever you have. If you're doing it in a big pan, use about 1/4 cup. I'm going to put these in the oven when I'm finished on 425, and I'm going to let them come to heat to 425. That's going to take longer than your preheating time, so give yourself a good 20 minutes to let these get good and hot, and then we'll be back. While my pan is heating, I'm going to make my topping. And I'm making a half recipe here of chicken a la king. And if you want to do this with beef, if you have some leftover beef, you can use the exact same recipe, only using beef broth and beef. I'm going to let these onions, carrots, and celery cook a little bit until they get translucent. I'm adding my spices. That's a healthy pinch of salt. I'll add some red pepper flakes. You can use black pepper. I'm going to add a little thyme and a little rosemary. You can actually add whatever spices suit you. But add them now, because cooking them with the mirepoix actually adds a little more flavor. You know, there's a lot of tradition around Yorkshire pudding, and the way it's served now is not the way it used to be served. In years past, it would be cooked under a roast that was roasting on a spit, and the drippings would drip down in the pudding, and that gave it a distinctive flavor. Nowadays, they're made separately, if you want to make them separately, and served with just about any kind of meat and vegetables that you like. Or, you know, they make a really great base for a dessert with, say, fruit and whipped cream or ice cream and chocolate syrup. You would just probably make them with butter instead of meat drippings if you're going to do that. So I've added my flour, and I'm going to let that simmer together for about a minute on medium heat, just to cook off that pasty flavor. I have here 4 ounces of canned chicken. Leftover baked chicken works too. Now remember, this is half a recipe. That's about a half cup of green peas, frozen. If you have fresh, you're probably going to want to cook them a little bit first. And we're just going to stir all that in and get a little browning on the chicken. And then we'll add cold chicken broth, hot roux, cold broth, no lumps. And I'll add it kind of gradually and beat it in as we go. And when I get this all mixed together and get all the broth in, I'm going to just set this on low heat on the back burner and let it thicken up. Give it an occasional stir, and when it gets thick enough, turn it off, and it'll be ready when our puddings are ready. So the batter's been in the fridge for about an hour. I'm going to take it out and freshen it up. If you need to put a tablespoonful of really cold water in it, you can. I'm going to beat a little air back into it, and then I'm going to fill my pans. Now we're going to work fairly quickly. We want the pans to stay hot, and you can see I've got a hot pad here, and I use a spoon to minimize drip. So when you fill these up, anywhere from a half to 2/3 full, you want to quickly put them in the oven, shut the door, and do not open it until at least 15 minutes. I'll set my timer for 15 minutes and then I'll check them. I'll tell you now, I ended up cooking them for a total of 18 minutes to get them to the brownness that I wanted. And they're going to rise up. You know, if you fill your pan a little less, they rise differently than if you fill it a little more. It's really up to you. I'll put some in this small pan back here. I don't have quite enough to fill it up. But you'll see that there's a variety of sizes and shapes that you can cook the puddings in. And when you've done it for a bit, you'll see what you like best. And after 18 minutes, this is what we have. Now, the reason I told you not to open your oven is because, like a souffle, if you interrupt the steady heat, they can fall. So you can see these bigger ones make something like a cup for you to put your meat and gravy in, meat or gravy. Folks traditionally, I know I'm using that word a lot, served these with gravy before the meal. One story is that they did that so you'd eat less of the beef. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know these are wonderful with any kind of a gravy-based dish just scooped over the top, and that's one reason I made chicken a la king. So they must be served hot. I'm taking them out while they're still very hot. And I'll show you these little ones, which I think are oh so cute and oh so perfect for a dessert. And they're just a pretty thing to put on your plate. Very light. I'll break one open for you here in a minute so that you can see they're almost hollow, like a crust wrapped around air. And you know, we used no leavening in this. The rise comes from the egg, and they are just as light as they can be, crispy on the outside. And the structure of these is fairly delicate, so you do want to serve them hot. And the aroma's making me hungry, so let's plate these up and serve them. I've got my chicken ready. I'm going to break one of these little ones open for you just so that you can see. See, it's like there's nothing in there. They just rose up and became puffballs. And they just make a perfect base for some kind of savory topping, whichever savory topping you like. Don't get too hung up on tradition. Get creative. And I do like this shape because it's just perfect for adding your topping. And we're just going to scoop on a healthy serving here of this chicken a la king, which is one of my favorites, and with the price of beef, I have it more often. I'll set one of these little ones here on the side just to let you see the difference, and then I'm ready to dig in. This is calling my name. You know, this is really a pretty quick dinner. You can make your batter ahead, you can make your meat topping ahead, and if you're having guests, it makes a pretty impressive presentation. I'm going to dig into it now and taste this combination of savory meat topping and wonderful Yorkshire pudding. I just want you to look at that. And it is so good. I mean, I don't know how to tell you how good it is. It's just different than any other kind of bread. It does not overpower the flavor of your topping. It adds to it, and it's light and airy. And just so you know, I was bad. I ate 2. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. I hope you try this, show off a little, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.